Welcome back to the Weekly Manga Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about all of your favorite ongoing Japanese manga. This week we're doing our first direct follow-up episode since Chainsaw Man gave us some discussion topics. To put it lightly, we were also going to talk about the most recent chapter of Kagurabachi and My Hero Academia, which is now in its falling action arc. All that, manga news, and more coming right up. Hello again, my name is Bruce. I am the proprietor of the White Gray Black YouTube channel, and this week I am joined again by my constant co-host, Gautam.
What's up?
All right, we talked about Chainsaw Man 2 weeks ago with its last chapter, with an event that we have dubbed Cockgate, and we are going to get back to it because I think it warrants a discussion and a follow-up.
Yeah.
And this chapter was... made the internet buzz, I guess I will say.
Yeah, so let's talk about what we called. I said that they will kind of get down to the bottom of Denji's kind of self-worth and emotional baggage. And you said that his cock will be cut off.
I said there was a 50-50 chance, yes or no, impossible to predict.
And yeah,
I would not be surprised either way.
We were both quite wrong.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what? They reached a different climax, and it all worked out in the end, I think.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, and there's a lot to unpack here, and I think even we probably won't talk about this next week or the week after. There will probably be a lot to unpack in that chapter also. I think what happens after this is also going to be interesting. This is chapter 167 of Chainsaw Man called Super Smooch, which is an interesting title.
Yeah, and just some forewarning, we won't be showing the last parts of this chapter, mainly because I have no idea how old you guys are, and I really don't want to show you a hand job.
Might have to mark this one as, well, explicit. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
No, but I think that the start of the chapter, I think it's hilarious that Yori just finds a knife. She's like, I found a knife.
Well, she doesn't, right? This first panel shows her picking up just like a piece of scrap, and she changes it into a knife.
She changes it? Okay, that makes so much more sense. Yeah. Okay, got it.
Yeah, she's essentially, because it is very convenient. But yeah, she just picks up, I don't know what this is, just like a straw or a piece of trash or something. And it's just like, I found a knife on the ground. It's like, no, you didn't. You made the knife.
Yeah.
I think the first... I don't even know where to start. I mean, I guess... This page is here, right? It's yours says found a knife on the ground. He's like, losing your dick should straighten you out, right? Take it out. And Denji is kind of like flabbergasted, and he's like, you literally want to cut my dick off? And she's like, don't you want to be freed from your sex drive? Get it out. He's like, you're serious? Quit stalling. He's very
they're both really stupid.
Yes, that is part.
Because like it wouldn't even work because he's Chainsaw Man, to regrow it.
Yeah, and I think we talked about that last week, or maybe with people online or something. But yeah, I assume, right, like if it does get cut off, you pull the chainsaw thing and it grows back. So
they work well as a couple because it's like they are both so exceedingly dumb. But like they get shit done somehow. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, and this is less couple interaction, I would say, because this isn't Asa and Denji, right? This is the War Devil who's sort of doing this because she has the scars on her face. So the War Devil is doing most of the stuff in this chapter, except for at the very end, which is another interesting thing. But
yeah, I see people talk about that. How let's recap the chapter fully.
Yeah,
and
we
then,
do.
And then we'll talk about it.
We do see later on, I guess. Well, okay. Well, let's talk about this thing because this is where I think things start actually getting interesting. Denji says, "You legit want to see my," and then he stops himself to cut off my dick. So, to me, this introduces this idea that Denji is one kind of misinterpreting, or maybe he's just confused in some way, right? That a girl is asking Denji to present himself to her. Granted,
I don't think
to be cut off, but he is. Yeah, I don't think
any woman has ever wanted to touch his cock.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's kind of what what we see is that he's sort of confused because on one hand it seems like, oh, she wants a part of me. She wants to see this part of me, but then on the other hand, it's to do bad things to it. So he's kind of confused in this way that it's like he's misinterpreting this. From what I'm reading, he's misinterpreting this as like, oh, she wants a sexual part of me, but then also for bad things. So he's very confused of like, oh, a girl's never like asked me to do this, or the last time it's ended badly and it's kind of happening again. So maybe this is also like a PTSD thing, right? Like he's had negative sexual encounters in the past, including some implications in part 2 with his dad, which haven't fully been explained yet.
Wait,
but that
when did that happen?
I don't remember. It was a decent number of chapters ago, and it was only a panel or two, but it seemed to imply, I don't know if it necessarily implied sexual misconduct. I feel like I remember it being like that, but it definitely, implied that his dad was like a deadbeat and abusive in some way.
Got it.
So
I can't recall.
Yeah, and part of, and stuff we talked about last week, right? If you want to go check out that episode, that's called Cockgate. That's on the channel. Go check it out.
It's called Cockgate.
I don't remember what the title of it is, but
yeah.
One of the things we talked about is how much Denji and Asa both sort of have this desire for like love and acceptance, and how they sort of misconstrue that in a sexual tense, and that's kind of what led to all of this. And I do wonder, because Denji, even just since the start of Chainsaw Man, has not had any good sexual or romantic interactions with anyone. Like he almost gets kissed in part 1, and then that girl throws up in his mouth. He goes to sleep with is it the same girl? I don't remember what her name is because she dies in part 1. Spoilers, but and then he just ends up kind of like trauma dumping on her, and they don't sleep together.
He almost had a girlfriend with Riz, and then a bunch of rats turned her into Makima's puppet. It's a rough life.
And even beyond that, he almost had a girlfriend, and then he goes to kiss her, and she bites his tongue out and tries to kill him for the next like 8 chapters. So that would just maybe more traumatic.
And you know what? And they say romance is dead, right? And this one wants to cut his dick off, kinda, I guess.
Yeah, so
maybe not.
Yeah, so if you think you have bad luck with girls, be thankful you are not Denji.
And I guess power doesn't flush, and she pads her boobs, so it's like
Power's a little bit different, but there's also trauma from Power, him watching Power get obliterated by Makima, and there's also the Makima thing where he thinks that there's some kind of
Well, oh no, I'm talking about at the beginning. Denji and Power were not romantic.
They're much more brother sister vibes for me.
Yeah, for sure.
So
it's for everyone. It's like the intent, I think.
For sure, and I think there's even more confusion there, right? Because after I don't remember what the event that happens, right? But like Denji and Power end up like bathing together and doing some stuff after she gets traumatized because something happens in part 1. I don't remember. Oh, it's when they meet the Darkness Devil. It's after that. Yeah. And everybody loses. Yeah, after that happens, they do kind of have.
There's no romance in that though.
No, there's not. But imagine you're Denji, a 16-year-old boy. I can see again this being more confusing and more sort of.
Not in that moment, because Denji said he was like in his monologue in that scene that he wasn't feeling anything romantic in that moment.
Yeah. But it also does just sort of show that like Denji has not had any innocent, any romance or sexual interaction without ulterior motives or abuse or physical violence of multiple kinds. So he's messed up here, and I think this is leading to this page where he is confused about like, wait, she wants to see it, she wants to cut it off. No, I've changed my mind. Like he has a little bit more power here than he has in the past, where he knows something bad is coming if he sort of pursues this sexual pursuit, and he's saying, no, I don't want this. I've been here before. I want to avoid this again. So
I personally have a different interpretation. I think he's just getting horny. I think he's just getting horny over it.
That's
why he changes his mind.
And I don't think it's changing. Speaking more, I guess, just about the top panel, right? Where he sort of like says like, he's going to say like, wait, you legit want to see my dick? But he changes. He's like, wait, you legit want to see my, to cut off my dick? It's like he changes because he's thinking about the first one, right? He's thinking about, oh, a girl wants to see me, and that's good, and I'm horny, and that's what I want. And then he's like, no, wait, but she wants to cut off. So that's the kind of confusion I was talking about.
This is like confused boner energy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's the perfect way to put it, I think. Yeah. He sort of knocks the knife away, and Yoru just like goes for it. In the
I
simplest
do
terms, she
think
goes.
that the cock grabbing page is kind of hilarious because it is like very much
His face
an
is
action scene.
hilarious here.
It is like the Looney Tunes face Denji has made in a while.
Yeah, his face is throughout the entire from this panel on the right on. His faces are all like hilariously awkward and weird, which is it's perfect for Fujimoto.
And I think this is like established. Yoru has like no idea how to interact with men. Or because it was during the breakout. One of like the people that they were breaking out with said, "You really don't understand men." And she's like, "What's there to understand? Who cares?"
Yeah, you have essentially 3 entities here. All of which do not understand anything about the other 2. This is sort of Denji, Asa, and Yoru. None of them understand anything. Like that's just none of them get it. All of them are thinking about this the wrong way, or are confused by past experiences, or just don't get it, and it leads to an extremely awkward situation in this chapter.
Hey, you know what? I think they finished their side quest. Like the side quest was that Denji was going to go to a brothel and stop being horny by getting someone to jerk him off, and then he could focus on his main quest. And hey, it all worked out that way. Nobody's dick needed to get cut
so I
out.
think this is the other maybe most interesting part to me here, though, is where Yoru sort of remembers that Asa and Denji kissed at some point in the past, which for some reason I'm not remembering right now. But
yeah. Nayuta caught them kissing, and then
that's right. Yeah. And I heard some discussion here about that, Nayuta's power is failing either because of some stronger emotion, right? So the conversation here was around, okay, Nayuta's the control devil, which so was Makima in part 1. And Makima's power waned when there was a stronger underlying emotion, like Denji's love for power, for instance, or when there was some other manipulation going on. So people here are, I think, assuming in the direction that she's remembering that, even though Nayuta made her forget, because Asa actually likes Denji. That's something that she's remembering, and it is maybe real and positive. I think from the very start,
the control could just be on Asa and not Yoru.
It could be, it could very well just be like that. But I do think, from the very start, since we've been talking about Chainsaw Man Part 2, there have been a lot of, I'll call them shippers, like me included, who think that Asa and Denji make at least an interesting couple, if not a good couple, in the sense that they both kind of have these, they both are sort of longing for the same type of connection and love, right? Which we talked about in the last episode. It's like they're both very similar characters, that they both want that love, don't understand how to get it, misinterpret and go chase the wrong avenues to try to get it, and that kind of thing. So
also, I think they have a general level of understanding with each other, and I think both being absolutely kind of unhinged and weird in their own specific ways, they have they're kindred spirits, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. And then after that, I think we get, after that, I did not put any of these pages in. We get about 6 pages of a hand job, essentially. And it ends with this panel, which is the one that if you were looking online, you have probably seen. So this is exactly what you think.
This is the I'm so fucked up Evangelion moment.
Yeah, I didn't grab the page here. I'm not going to go grab it. The interesting thing to see, maybe I will go grab it. The interesting thing to see is that I talked at the beginning that this is Yoru the majority of the time. At the very end, in the second to last page, here it is. Let me grab it here and open it up. This is the page directly previous, and what we see here is that the scars disappear, right? The top panel, the scars are there. They're kind of fading. And the bottom panel is a shocked Asa, which then leads us into, to the final panel, right? So this is why the next chapter is also going to be interesting, because I think Asa probably still is like awake inside when Yor controls her, but I don't know if we've ever seen like if Asa is like, I don't know, like fully cognizant inside when Yor is controlling her or not. I'm not sure.
I don't know either.
I think probably at least to some degree, because it isn't like, oh, I have to explain things to you every time. But anyways, essentially the War Devil just jerked off Denji and then at the end swapped places with Asa again and like left her with the cleanup. So
yeah,
which is
what a hilarious predicament, because it's first of all, it is she left Asa with the dirty work now, and Denji and Asa are gonna have to leave this alleyway and like either explain this to their friends or just try to like brush it under the rug and move past it awkwardly.
Yeah, I don't. Again, we tried to make predictions last time; they were all completely wrong. There's not even any reason to try this next time. It could be anything. I know. The best prediction I can make is like, I think a devil probably just like shows up right now, because that would be the wildest thing to happen, right? It's just like something appears. But yeah, what a weird and wild chapter. There was a little bit of conversation I saw about Denji gets taken advantage here, right? He doesn't, in a way he wants this to happen, but really he doesn't. And in the end here, again, it's sort of like Asa's body is being used by Yor to do things he doesn't want to do, which has happened in the past with some fighting and stuff like that too. And like, she says, hey, don't flirt with that guy or whatever, or don't do X, Y, and Z, and Yor still does it. Some interesting implications there. I don't know if Fujimoto will directly address those or not. But yeah.
I'm not sure. I think people are kind of blowing it out of proportion. Denji came here in the first place to get a handy at a brothel.
Which is why it's kind of like he did kind of want this, but not execution is everything, and this is probably not the way he wanted it executed. So
I guess we'll see how it all. I
don't know. Yeah,
out.
I mean,
I definitely don't think it's like sexual assault or anything like that.
It a lot of it does depend on like what is the following action of this now, because Genji has not had his dick cut off, or maybe honestly, the very first panel of the next chapter, she fucking swipes the knife and cuts his dick off. Like, I don't like, absolutely that could happen in Chainsaw Man, and you would not. Surprised.
You know what? I just see this being incredibly awkward going forward, and
yeah, I'm
here for it. I'm here for awkward hand job leading to awkward rest of the main quest going forward.
Yeah, I don't know. And so, yeah, impossible to predict. Interesting chapter.
Romance.
Yeah, I guess you are correct in labeling that this is an interesting romance and an interesting development between the two of these characters. But yeah, it's just wild. It goes to show, I think, that the reason a lot of us fell in love with Chainsaw Man Part 1 after, only a couple I think I started reading it maybe when there were like 20 or 25 chapters out. You suggested it to me. Is that it just surprises you. Like at every turn, you're just like, oh, I thought I got it, right? Like, oh, I thought I got this was going to be, Denji turns into Chainsaw Man and fights off devils. And it does that for a little bit. And then it's like, wait, we locked him in the basement of a hotel with an endlessly like respawning devil for like a week. And he has consumed a bunch of blood. And that's what the story is now. Or, the Darkness Devil or the Makima reveal or all this other stuff. Like, it's a pretty constantly surprising series. And I am equally enjoying it in part 2. I do think I reread Chainsaw Man maybe about 2 years ago after it had finished part 1, and I enjoyed it on the reread a lot more. And I'm wondering what the reread of part 2 will be like. I have a feeling it's going to be even better, just because
I think it'll be better because it's a lot of character stuff, and I'm probably not remembering every interaction, right?
Right, yeah, I don't remember every single thing that happened, or if there's little hints and stuff. When you read faster, you pick up on those. Like, for instance, when I reread part 1, it was like, oh yeah, Makima's bad just like from the beginning. Like, but a bunch of people I think were kind of fooled by it, or at least like surprised by like how bad is she.
Well, we didn't. I think everyone, Fujimoto didn't hide that, but it felt like a lesser evil situation.
Yeah,
but it definitely wasn't. Makima was just the main villain the whole time.
Yeah. All right, cool. Anything else about Chainsaw Man?
No. Weird chapter. I had a good time with it. So did Denji, seemingly. But
In some
yeah,
way,
I don't
yeah.
know. We'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah, we'll see. Cool. All right, let's get over to My Hero Academia. This is chapter 424. We are getting up there. We got confirmation from Hori that there is going to be a epilogue of some kind, I guess, which starts in this chapter. Quick detour. I wanted to zoom in on the map of America they have here. I don't know if this is based on the lettering or the translation, but the location of these cities is a little off. I don't know.
Hey, you know what? That's why this is a fantasy world.
I guess
America's exactly the same, except Miami's in the ocean.
Miami's in the ocean. I mean, okay, so maybe you think, okay, they're not exactly on there, but then, I mean, Miami's in the ocean. Dallas is way far
There.
south. El Paso is in Texas. El Paso is right here. Seattle is in the wrong state, by the way. I'm pretty sure, isn't Seattle up here? Isn't Washington the top leftmost state in the...
What is
in the,
Billings?
Billings is a city in Wyoming. I don't know where Billings is. This could be correct. I actually assume these are all wrong. I think Chicago's in the wrong place. Isn't Chicago? It's at the bottom of Lake, one of the Great Lakes over here.
This is not Chicago, dude. That's Chica. And
True.
This is just Paso. This is not El Paso.
Yeah. Also, I think Anchorage, I think that's close. I don't know. Yeah, I just like saw that while we were swapping over and I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is sort of the start of, I guess, the epilogue of the series. The fight is over. We'll probably talk a little bit more about it once the series is fully over. We're in the falling action now. Also, kudos to Hori. I cannot praise enough his character design and his art style because he drew for one panel this like gorgeous anime girl giving us the weather and the news here, and it's like, wow, she's very unique. And if she showed up again, I would recognize her, and that is some talent of character design right there. So
For sure. That's always been his like best.
and always his strong suit, I think. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
They talk a little bit about the restoration. We see a bunch of heroes helping to kind of rebuild all of Japan that was kind of fought over. I like this interesting transition here at the bottom of the right page where it says, but with so many capable quirks devoted to the effort, it shouldn't be long before things, and we swap to the doctor, and he says, won't ever be back to normal.
Yeah.
Which I think is just a really cool transition, like a really interesting kind of visual thing there. We see Bakugo here basically being told that he's not going to be able to use his powers the way he had because he, fractured like every bone in his arm or whatever. Yeah, a number of
And
bone segments had to be
heart
joined
is,
and
like,
set.
Knit up by human string or whatever.
Yeah.
happened.
Over here, it's like you'd be dead without Edshot's masterful suturing, which helped restart your heart and lungs. I have no idea how you managed to fight. Keep fighting. Flabbergasted that you blasted your way across several kilometers after that. It's like, my only prescription now is bed rest, and Bakugo looks very sad about that. Interestingly, All Might survives all of this. He is alive. I think he's going to be alive at the end of the series. Like, I would not be one to call this.
So Nightshot's like power is just wrong. Like, you remember that guy, Nightshot?
Oh yeah,
Night
his
Edge?
old assistant who had the future sight prediction or whatever.
Yeah, that was always right. And he said All Might will die, and All Might never died.
Yeah, but didn't we already know that his prediction could be wrong in that arc? Because didn't he predict that like something bad would happen to like Bakugo or Mirio? Or is it Mirio? What's the name?
Mirio's the guy who can phase through stuff.
Yeah. He was in that arc. I feel
and
like
something
we
bad
got
did
something
happen.
where like I feel like we got something where Deku like broke fate and was like, oh, he came out and he was okay, and that means that his predictions can be wrong. So
Sucks.
yeah, I don't get so much on that. This is just more like
I mean, you don't think so? Okay.
yeah, I'd have to go back and check on that one because I feel like I feel like he made some prediction in that arc about Deku that by the end of that arc it was like, oh, Deku proved that his future sight can be wrong. So
And it was just
I feel
useless
like
drama.
I remember that.
It was just
absolutely, yes.
garbage. Okay.
Yes,
fine.
I mean that is. We'll talk about this maybe when the whole series is over, but that arc is the beginning of the end for My Hero Academia, in my opinion. So, but anyways, All Might survives, which, as we've talked about in the past, All Might, in my opinion, still should have died in his first fight against All for One. But he's still here. Deku is still here. He has his arms attached. They're just kind of talking about it. Yeah, it's interesting. Here's the question: they talk a little bit about like, oh, I couldn't save Shigaraki, I couldn't
Yeah.
save him, and then
Let's talk about the whole ending. Like, how did you feel
yeah,
about these last I'd say like 6 or 7
it's.
chapters?
I mean, if we're talking about the whole ending, we're looking at the last, like, no lie, like 80 chapters. I think we have been in this ending arc for like 2 years or more, and I think that I have lots of little storytelling issues, chapter to chapter, some visual things, some action is hard to read. I think the biggest thing is that I was just exhausted by the end of it because it had been going on for so long. This legitimately started with the assault on the like lab or the hospital or whatever. And that
Uh,
whole thing has been this
there's
final
like
battle.
not quite, because
Oh
the
no,
lab turned
there was a
out
split between
work.
that still.
Yeah,
But
then they took a small break and Deku went edgy boy, and then they went to a parking lot and then all teleported to their respective battle arenas.
yeah, but even then, I think that was like a year ago. Like I think that was 40 chapters ago,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I don't know how this makes sense to say on my end, but it felt rushed. It felt rushed because I think a lot of those chapters were used to wrap up side characters' little bits in the story in the
yeah.
conclusion.
Well,
And
and I think
yeah,
yeah, Rush maybe isn't the right word. This feels to me like the end, like the last season of Game of Thrones, where it's like all the characters ended up in a place, and I'm sort of like okay with the plot details on paper of like, oh yes, Shigaraki died, but got kind of a very minor redemption. Like okay, I think we could kind of predict that. I think like you predicted that for our yearly prediction thing. Um, Bakugo and Deku are like injured but survived. Deku gave up his power. Like all those things, I'm sort of like, yeah, on paper they all look good. I think the problem is just like the execution wasn't there. I was exhausted reading, back to back to back weeks of just like people screaming at each other and fighting and huge confusing action spreads that like never stopped. There was like never a chance to breathe, never a chance to give the characters a little bit of time to just sort of like live in these moments. The moments were just they came, they went. It was the next one, next one, next one. So yeah, like I think it was rushed in that way, and that it's like the execution of it. I mean, yeah, the execution
I
of this
think
final
people will
battle
like it
stuff
better than
was
us though, because I feel like the
yeah,
series lost our investments in the stakes
true,
at some
yeah.
point, and people who still have those will see this as cool, and that's totally fine.
And I do,
Uh,
yeah, and I do think I would suggest for most people that if you are interested in My Hero Academia or you want to consume My Hero Academia, I do think you should watch the anime. I think the anime fixes a lot of the pacing issues. I think the anime fixes, um, especially I think in the later half of the story. I think a lot of the action stuff that Hori did took a massive blow. I think probably just from burnout, as we've seen, he's been taking a lot of breaks recently. Because I think the
I
action of the
can
series in the first half was really good. Like I think the Deku versus Bakugo fight that's like, I don't know, chapter like 160, 180, something like that, where they sort of get mad at each other and fight. That's one of the best like manga fight scenes I've ever seen it, like drawn. Like
mhm.
that fight fucking rocks. And I don't think he ever hit those highs like ever again in the
I don't
series.
think
Like
the
his fights
anime
got
will fix the
confusing.
problems. I
I
just
think it will
don't.
fix not all of them, but I do think it will fix. I think the pacing issues week to week. The fact that sometimes you get a chapter that was like 8 pages, 9 pages. We got a couple of those in the last
I
year.
guess to me that feels like just like one problem of many.
Yeah, for sure.
It's I think I lost an understanding of like what was happening in the fight because I didn't understand Deku's power sets and I don't understand what Shigaraki's capable of. So
Yeah,
I don't know when someone is cornered unless they say I'm cornered or
exactly.
I'm
Which
running
is
out of fuel or like
yeah,
it's like I feel like I can fully understand what's happening visually in a One Piece or I don't know a lot of there's a lot of good
there's a lot of
action
good action in manga.
manga
Yeah,
out there.
My Hero Academia
Like
is not one of them. It has amazing art, has amazing character designs. The action in and especially in the latter half is not easy to parse.
yeah, contextually, I just did not know what the like either side was capable of. So
Hmm.
it was just watching pretty fight scenes, and that might be okay for some people, but I don't know. I couldn't invest myself because of that.
Well, and what you said leads to maybe my biggest complaint, which is sort of the resolution of it all, is you're saying you don't understand what these characters' power sets are, and the way that they resolved this ending was with a power that we never knew Deku had until he talked about it the chapter before it was used, right? Like of this,
Yeah.
like I'm going to give my power to Shigaraki, and that's going to put these ghosts inside, the ghosts of the past users inside him, and then they're going to be able to attack him from the inside, or like all of this stuff, which is like, well, we didn't know that that was possible. That was never like on the table as an option, like until you just said, oh yes, my powers can do this and this, which again, I think that leads back all the way to the point where we find that Deku has 14 superpowers instead of one, and he has all these ghosts of teachers inside him that are now talking to him, which I think that's a big turning point for the series just really losing steam for me, because that's just not interesting. It was interesting when he was a kid who, if he punched too hard, he broke his arm and he had to sit out for a few weeks. It's not as interesting when he's got 14 superpowers and people inside him who will tell him exactly how to use him, or warn him when someone's attacking him, or talk to them about their history and past. It's like, I hate to say it, but it's just like a Mary Sue type upgrade. And I think that comes home to roost in this final battle where, like you were saying, what powers does Deku have? How is he using them together? The way, it's very confusing. The action is all over the place. Oh, and sometimes they have to just explain it to you, and that doesn't make it any better. Where he's like, I have to use the seventh's black whip and the fifth's anti-gravity and the fourth's this, and I've used all these together. I can fling myself at him. And it's like, okay, or just fling yourself at him and don't tell us. Like, there's all these multi-layer little like writing and artistic and all these other little mistakes. Nothing is like terrible, I guess, but there's all these little cracks in it that when you look at it, you're just like, I just didn't feel good. And especially for me at the end with the resolution, because you've got to really stick the landing. And to me, it didn't stick the landing in the sense that I didn't know he had this power to send his power inside Shigaraki until he says he has it. And then the next chapter he uses it. And then 2 or 3 chapters later, it's over. And it's like,
I guess it's like how All Might pass the power to him. And I think this has the structure of a good ending. It just lost me along the way.
Which is kind of what I was saying, right? It's like all the individual decisions make sense. Like Deku having that power to like pass it and, attack him from the inside. It's like, well, that kind of makes sense with how he passes the power on. But also there was no foreshadowing, right? He didn't like mention it 100 chapters ago and then like, oh yeah, remember when he mentioned that, or like brought it up again? It's just, we didn't know he had this power. He tells us about it in a chapter. The next chapter he uses it. 2 or 3 chapters later, it's resolved, which is like, that's like the definition of like a Deus Ex type Machina power. Like that's something swooping in that was unannounced that solves all the problems. And I don't know. It's rough. We're pretty down on My Hero Academia. I don't
know. It's fun. It's fun enough to talk about it and complain a little bit.
Yeah. And the fact that I still like, I see it and I kind of sigh every Sunday when I read it, and I'm like, okay, and sometimes it's better than other times. As a whole, I think it just lacks, I don't know. It just lacks sort of like.
I feel bad talking shit as well because I feel like this should have worked. I think this Shigaraki face is like one of the best ones. Like,
well, and again, that
he
kind
delivers emotionally with his art. That's for sure.
For sure. Yeah, a lot of the visual storytelling stuff that's not pure action, I think works really well. I think he has good spreads. It is, again, his art is still gorgeous. His character stuff is still great. Again, that's why I think I would suggest the anime over the manga, because I think the anime fixes. It doesn't fix all the issues, right? I think the story is still generally the same. I think it does fix the issues with a lot of the confusing fights and losing, what powers are using. It's a lot easier just to see that when it's in motion. And like we mentioned, Hori, I think, has gotten worse at doing action over the years. But the animators are, there's 70 of them, or, a guy focused on 6 seconds. And so they can make that look really good, look really cool. So I think that's my main thing, is that
I think I fundamentally disagree. I think the anime fixes nothing. None of the problems we have problems with personally. I think if people align with our opinions on not loving this, I don't think anything gets solved. But I do think,
I don't know. I mean, none of the storytelling
is just a better
stuff.
version of this. It had the same ending for what it's worth, and it killed it. So
did it have the same ending? Similar.
Yeah,
not exactly the same.
It's the bad guy they couldn't save kind of ending.
Yeah, true. Which I think is a staple in hero stories, right? The main character is honorable. The hero is honorable and wants to save the bad guy from themselves, kind of, and then the tragedy is, well, they can't. So
I guess I cared more in the other one.
Yes.
Like a lot more. So I think it was a very good ending because everything set up was delivered concisely, and I don't know, it was emotionally resonant in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
go read Vigilantes and let us know what you think.
Yeah, this is just a big pitch for if you like the world of My Hero Academia and the characters, go read Vigilantes. It's a better version of this.
It really is.
It's a slightly
really
different
is.
story, but it's just a better. It takes place in the same universe, and it's much more well written. Yeah, so
It's not even close in my eyes, but
no, it isn't. My Hero Academia is like a 4.
I think with all that said, I think Hori did the best with what he had, with what he built up to this point. This was I don't think you could make really a better ending. Do you agree with that? Like, is there a way that he could have redeemed, like,
I mean,
redeemed all of
the problem
flaws
is
we had?
no, not really, because the problem is, I think if he maybe could have gone back to like the start of the final battle and changed a lot of the ways that the story was told and presented from there, I think you could fix it. I think the problem is it isn't one minor fix, right? It's the things I was talking about where it's like you have to tell us and foreshadow the power that Deku is going to use to win the final battle. This like, give over the one for all power and all of its users inside and have them attack. Like you have to foreshadow that earlier. You have to spend a little bit more time with the side characters. A lot of these side characters got like one chapter or half a chapter to be resolved. And I know a lot of the appeal for me, and I think for everyone, of My Hero Academia is it has a lot of good, cool side characters. A lot of stuff with like Red Riot and all of the other one of the classmates. Yeah, which again is one of those issues that we've talked about for years. Of it got away from him. There's too many of them. None of them are able to sort of be in the focus. I mean, even Todoroki, I didn't feel like got a very good spend too much time on his resolution. He got like maybe 2 chapters to end his story, 2 or 3. And Todoroki's like a main character. Like he's secondary only to Deku and Bakugo in this story, in my opinion. So
I think if this went like another few years, we could have gotten a better ending. But I think Hori was severely burnt out.
Absolutely, I think he's been struggling the past 2 or 3 years, especially. He's been taking tons of breaks. We have some really short chapters. The average page length of My Hero Academia is like, I don't want to say 15 pages, maybe 16, when the average shonen is about 20 to 22, right? So
yeah, and I think you can see that with like the introduction of the big 3. They didn't end up doing anything, but like they were set up to be like the strong people within the school in that universe. And Deku, it's kind of a bummer that he had his powers and lost them within a year.
So that's another thing, right? Is that I think this all happens within like 9 months. The entirety of from chapter, maybe not necessarily from chapter 1, but from the end of Deku's training, which is, chapter 2 or 3 to now this is 1 year. These kids are 15 or 6. Yeah, I guess it'd be 15. They have not even done a full year of school. They have fought a war. They've defeated every bad guy imaginable. Which again, this is exactly the complaint that we have had for years reading My Hero Academia, is that why wasn't this planned out to be, 3 high school years like most, high school anime are, and the finale happens, around the time graduation of the 3rd year, instead of all packing it all into 1 year. But I do think Hori just reached a certain point where he was just like, I need to push through and get to the end of it. I'm not going to slow down, take time. So yeah, it suffered for that for sure.
Yeah. Honestly, if he is very burnt out, it seems like he is. This is me assuming, but I get it. I totally get it. The final product did suffer, but at least this is like one of his first things.
Yeah,
it's only up from here, right?
Well, and I would say this, I guess, to sort of caveat all this, is that I think if you're a kid, like I think if you're 12, I think you could do a lot worse than My Hero Academia as your first like anime or manga, right? Like you could like, this is not the worst thing out there. It's not like garbage, and a lot of the things that we have issues with are more about sort of structure of storytelling and visual clarity, which when you're 12, you don't know about that. You don't care about that. You can't recognize it. And I think from that angle, I think if I was to suggest, like, if a 12 or 13-year-old was like, I need to watch my first anime or manga, like My Hero Academia is probably still a pretty good recommendation in my opinion.
Yeah, totally. I watched all of Dragon Ball Z.
That has tons of story issues in it that you wouldn't notice when you're that young. So,
well, also even if you notice, it doesn't matter. That's not what you're watching it for.
Yeah, you're watching it for the hype fights, and I think My Hero has those, in spades. So,
yeah, I guess. Maybe front loaded. But
For sure, I think front loaded, but yeah.
I did like this moment where Bakugo cries. I thought that
Yeah.
show of vulnerability is a nice little ending for him.
Yeah, and I do like the sort of I think the return to quirklessness is a good choice. I'll be interested to see because this story starts. I'd have to go find chapter 1 again, but it starts and I'm pretty sure this is Deku saying like this is a story about how I became the number one hero. And I wonder
He did for that year.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm wondering about. Is the way he became the number one hero just, well, he defeated the big bad and saved everyone, and so they're going to be like, Deku's the number one hero? Or is this going to be like he doesn't have a power and he keeps trying and is like the power is like Knuckle Duster, but a good person? I'm not sure. Yeah. So
I don't think that. I think it's the former because like he did what none of the other heroes could do. He finished the job that all of the One for All users had started, right? Even All Might couldn't do it. So yeah, he is the number one hero. That makes sense.
I think I think that's probably where we'll be. I think there'll be a big, because we're getting a substantial quote unquote. I'm assuming maybe 1 or 2 volumes, so anywhere between 6 and maybe 18 chapters. There'll be some kind of medal ceremony, and we'll see all the adult superheroes be like, "Thank you, Midoriya Shonen."
Dude, what about the bunny girl?
She had her arms ripped off. Wait, did I have that?
And her leg,
here?
right? She had like all of her limbs gone.
I don't think I added that. No, yeah, here it is. Yeah, on the bottom of this left page is like a number of bone segments had to be joined and set, and I can't guarantee any amount of rehabilitation will give him back the use of his arm. It's like if he's determined to work as a hero, he can consider a prosthesis like Miriko's. And then she just is like looking at the camera. She's like, screw that, like rehab, screw that, lop it off. And so it's like, oh, they just like cut. I think she lost a leg and an arm, one leg, one arm.
Fucking
maybe?
Insane. What an insane disposition.
Miriko's cool and is better in Vigilantes even. Like reading Vigilantes makes her even cooler in
she's great in Vigilantes. She's just nuts. That's like a crazy thing. I love that.
How do you feel about how do you feel about Bakugo, and how do you feel about this line at the end that says, "To my pair of great heroes, I say thank you." This is All Might talking about how he sort of credits Bakugo for saving him in the past, and he credits Deku for kind of saving everybody. Do you think the story handled the sort of, is this a dual protagonist? I kind of feel weird saying it because it doesn't feel like a dual protagonist story to me, but then at the end it's sort of like you were both the heroes, and it's like I thought Deku was a hero. Like I didn't think Bakugo.
I don't think it's a dual protagonist story, but Bakugo was the most important. Like, is it a deuteragonist? I don't know. He's an incredibly important character, no doubt.
Yeah.
I'd say maybe the second most important character in the story. Or most screen time in fights at the very least.
Yeah,
his relationship with Deku influences everything. So
well, and I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that it's like this page specifically feels strange to me in that this seems to be presented as like the world, maybe not the world thanking both of them, but like a big thank you to like the 2 main heroes who saved me and everyone. And it's like, no, Deku saved everyone. Bakugo like did not. Like Deku's the main character. Bakugo's not.
Bakugo is the one who beat All for One.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's true.
He turned him into a baby.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess it's just like, I don't know. Bakugo, it's very interesting. I'll have to. I wonder what kind of falling action we see for him after this, because
I think this plot beat works better for me than any other plot beat in My Hero Academia. Because we got to see them before. I felt like the series jumped the shark. I think it did like a very gradual build up into mutual respect, and I enjoyed that. I think it could have. Like, I wish Hori cut some of the side characters so they could have, like, one more sparring session at some point.
I do think
prior to all this shit going down, but... Yeah.
Well, and because I agree with you, and definitely especially, and I'll mention it because I think it's maybe my favorite part of all of My Hero Academia, but the fight between Deku and Bakugo, kind of right towards the middle of the series, where they fight each other, I don't even remember the reason for it, because... I think it's after... All Might...
Bakugo... was feeling like Deku was getting too strong, and he felt insecure, so he picked a fight with Deku to prove he had the bigger dick,
and then he won, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, I definitely felt like there should have been some sort of rematch there again. I think that would have been a good kind of cyclical thing.
Yeah, as friends, right? Like that would have been
Yeah,
as
like,
friends,
hey,
friendly rivals.
friendly rivals, and either Bakugo wins again or doesn't. I don't know, but yeah, a lot of the story stuff that got told, like Bakugo, and then I really like the stuff earlier on with him where he's like he felt responsible for All Might like losing more of his power after he fights One for All or all for One. Because it was like because he got captured in that arc and blah blah and had to be rescued, and that's kind of where that all came from. I thought that stuff was really good. I think Bakugo is a like 7 times more interesting character than Deku was throughout the story, and Todoroki too, right? I think both those characters are just better characters than Deku generally. So
I think Twice was a more interesting character
Twice
than everyone.
Twice
So
was
it's
a very
it's weird.
an incredible character also, and even Toga I thought was a good character by the end, was maybe the only developed female character in the entire cast. We're talking about complaints.
I feel like she got a little too much leeway, but she was fine. She was still interesting. I don't know. I really liked. I thought this part worked. I thought the Bakugo part worked.
Yeah.
I think what I'm missing is like one final friendly fight, because I think you could have used that opportunity to showcase or kind of establish Deku's power set before he went into the final fight too.
Yeah, that could have been like a clarity thing for sure.
Yeah, maybe this is the worst part. What
His
did you
haircut?
fucking do, bro? What is this?
Nah, he's
Just
got
fuck my shit up.
he's got the fade or whatever you call it. I don't know.
That like on one side only?
Yeah.
This
I don't
is
know.
insane.
I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean,
Just
hey,
buzz it.
we haven't seen the full reveal. As we talked, pretty confident in Horikoshi's character designs. So maybe it'll look a little weird, but maybe it looks fine. I don't know.
Oh well, it's not like a character design issue. It's just a terrible haircut.
I think it's going to be shaved on both sides, and we just can't see it from the back. I don't know.
Okay.
Who knows? We do get to see, I forgot her name, Uraraka,
Uraka,
doing fuck all as she has been for the past 300 chapters.
well, that's all women in this series.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Hori just kind of dropped the ball there.
Absolutely. Maybe my biggest complaint about My Hero Academia is the way that it treated and ignored virtually every female character. Like after Toga is the most developed female character, and I would say her story was, I would say, at a pretty good level. I mean, you don't necessarily have to agree with all the steps taken in it, but like she was well developed. Her stuff was resolved. Her fight was good, and kind of it made sense. We got her backstory. No one else got that. No other female character got as much attention as Toga did. So
I think I take umbrage with how little Momo was used, given how insane her quirk is, right? Like, that is a nutty quirk, and I don't even know what she has been doing recently.
she was in the fight 2 or 3 chapters before this, but
sure, but like,
yeah, I mean,
surely someone who can create anything has more impact than, like, I don't know, like making a gun.
it's the double combination of Class 1A got too big and too out of hand, or I don't know if he refuses, doesn't know how, doesn't think he knows how to write and develop female characters, but yeah, pretty much all of 1A is like.
I didn't think I'd ever say this. I didn't think I'd agree with you on this, Bruce, but they should have killed like half of Class 1A.
Yeah, I said that like a couple years ago on the podcast.
I know,
right?
And now I'm finally agreeing.
Yeah,
Okay, that was probably
it also just makes things interesting. Like, did anyone die other than the bad guys in this? Did we lose any heroes? Edgeshot? Maybe? Did he die? Did he die?
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that he gave his life to save Bakugo, but then I feel like he showed up a couple of chapters later, like explaining what he did to fix Bakugo, didn't he?
He did, but like I don't know if he died after that.
I don't know.
Well, Night Guy, Nightman, the Future Sight guy. He died.
Oh well, but he died 250 chapters ago. So
yeah, but that's like the only hero I can think of.
Yeah.
I guess Stars and Stripes, but yeah.
But Stars and Stripes
not
literally existed
really.
for 1 chapter, right? Or 2? Was she even in?
Yeah,
I think it was 1 chapter.
Those were cool chapters.
Those are cool chapters. Yeah.
I don't think anyone else died.
Yeah. So we're here. We're in the epilogue. That's it. World peace. Our tale does. I mean, literally saying our tale doesn't end here. Fight may be over, but until we lead the way to a bright future, we've got to go further beyond. So I'm curious to see what he has planned for this epilogue. Because while it seems like he's very much ready to be done with it. So it kind of strikes me as strange that like this kind of could have been the last chapter. It would have been very unsatisfying for multiple reasons if it was. But where do we go from here? Deku's going back to superhero school, and he does not have a superpower. So,
yeah, maybe he's just going for like to get his medal, and then he goes back to college or something. I don't know.
I don't know. I would
as a researcher.
I would hope. I think best case scenario for me here, we get a lot more of the side characters interacting and saying what happened to them. You know, we get the relationship pair ups that people, you know, that have been, you know, vaguely hinted at throughout the series. Maybe, you know, Ochako and Deku and the electric guy and the earphone girl. I don't remember any of these people's names, by the way. And the hardened dude and the alien girl.
Wait, that might be the lightning guy. I don't remember.
I think Kaminari. I think that's the lightning guy. And like Red Riot, and the alien
Red
Pink
Riot
girl.
and Pinky.
Yeah, that's one that's been hinted at. Anyways, all of those. That's one of those things that I think people would be jazzed to read about and see kind of made official. So I hope we get some sort of like, even just like, show me all of Class 1A. Show me how they've learned and grown, even if they barely got screen time. Like, show me I learned X, Y, and Z.
Okay, here's my cult shot then. This will end with a time skip, and Deku is the principal of UA.
Ooh, that's a good call. Yeah, I can see that.
I think that'll be a nice ending for him.
I don't know.
Teacher.
Maybe just teacher. I'm going to say teacher because because All Might is a teacher, and I think he would be better to step up into that thing. Because the principal's the weird rat man, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like he's ever sort of like had a need to be replaced. So
not really, but you know,
teacher, principal, admin at the
something
school.
Like that, right?
That would make sense.
Yeah, he works at the school, I assume.
I'll put up another theory just as a counter to you, which I think I like yours more, but I think he might just become a cop, right? Like we've seen the police featured, you know, fairly prominently as like assisting heroes, you know, being their backup.
Are there police in this universe?
Yeah. There's what
are they fucking doing, bro? Like, where are they?
They are literally like there to call the heroes. Like that. Well, and there's the one police investigator guy who is like close with All Might.
Yeah.
That's like from Vigilantes kind of, but there's some like important police.
Right.
I can see Deku being very like, well, I can be a hero in my own right by helping people as police. Like again, I think that's probably less likely than him being some kind of teacher or
you know, I don't think I mind that ending either. I think he'd be a great detective.
Yeah, I mean, and it kind of lets him be a hero in a sense without having superpowers. So,
you know, he initially took like so many notes. He was a hero fanboy. He understood everything about every popular hero, and I think that would be like great for either of the situations we mentioned.
Yeah.
But
I also need you to understand it has been like 380 chapters since that has been relevant to My Hero Academia.
I know, but like why is that? Like that was such an interesting. That was just like one interesting trait, right?
It was, yeah.
I don't know.
Which again is why I think the first half of My Hero Academia is really pretty good, and then the second half loses me. So.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see how it all plays out, huh? I think overall we're mostly negative on this series. You can tell. I'm sure.
On the second half. Again, you can do worse than My Hero Academia. It's not like the worst thing out there in the world. I think just off the back of the fact that the art and design is so good that it's like it's fun to read because it's great to look at, and in manga, you know, is about looking at it. So,
and writing, I think the frustration is that I think at all points there is something very interesting going on, and Hori is just unable to deliver upon it in what I feel is a coherent way.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think there's two things. Is that one is that it starts really good and really strong, and you want it to keep succeeding. At least I did. And I think the other is, like you said, even in every sort of bad situation or bad writing, you can kind of see how it could be made better, and how like if he made this one change here or there, it could just be improved. And that's kind of it's stressful and frustrating to be like, you were so close, like you almost made it.
I know,
it was almost
I
interesting and
that's
good.
What I feel.
So
yeah. Well, that's okay.
All right. Oh, that's My Hero Academia 424. We'll probably talk about that again once the final chapter's published, probably before the end of the year. So, all right, I want to talk about Kagurabachi. This is chapter 35. which if you've noticed, Kagurabachi kind of made it past the first round of axes. I think it's here to stay. I think it's a pretty decent series.
Doing well, right?
Yeah, I mean it's doing good enough to stick around. So yeah, I mean I think it's doing pretty well. I think it is a pretty interesting series. It's not. I'm trying to think of how to describe this. It isn't Akane Banashi. It is not this like fantastic story told, wonderful, colorful characters everywhere. But what it is it's a pretty cool Katana Batman story with some fun side characters, some interesting fights, some cool magic. It is very much kind of, again, kind of in talking about My Hero. It's kind of your like a baby's first shonen thing, but I think that's what it is kind of underneath it all, but I think that it's well executed. It's executed well enough for me to have kept up with it. And I think this chapter in particular was really good. So that's why I wanted to bring it here. So this chapter is mostly about Hakuri, which is this blonde kid here. His family, he's part of the sort of the bad guy family, but he's defected. He's with our good guy characters. All of his family are like magicians, and the dad is kind of this patriarch who has this power to like create a portal to like a realm where he can store things. They call it like the storeroom or something like that, the storehouse. The Sazanami clan is what he's a part of. So he's kind of the outcast, the runt, like nobody likes him. You'll see in this chapter, a lot of this is based on, he just gets like the shit beat out of him by his older brother who, and this is a flashback. So in current time, he is fighting that older brother. And we're kind of finally getting a flashback to get some exposition on that. In the storehouse, there's there's a jail. He's kind of still working with his family at this point in the flashback. There's this girl who has like some kind of icy powers or cold skin. They talk, they kind of connect. It's very much one of those kind of sweet, like, oh, he's bringing her extra food and she doesn't eat it first. And then she slowly you'll see in the upper right, like the food is not eaten. Here he is talking to her about like, oh yeah, like my older brother bullies me, to put it lightly. And he's like, he doesn't usually use tools, but this time he had like, a wrench and he like broke all my fingers. Like this is like,
that's some bullying.
Absolute like abuse bullying.
Yeah.
But yeah, he talks about like, oh, my big brother's always losing things. He's pretty much lost everything he's ever used on me, which to me reads as foreshadowing as like someone's helping him out or someone's making stuff disappear. So it's like, then he goes back to beating me up the normal way. Yeah, and here we see, time passes, the girl starts eating more, they talk a lot, she smiles, they're kind of connecting and stuff. And he's thinking, Hakuri's thinking about like, I want to be useful to the family. He has like no magic powers. His other brothers all have like magic powers and stuff. He's just like really bad at using it. And he gets beat up again on this page. He says, like last intake is tomorrow. It's your last meal. The plot we're dealing in current time is essentially the Sazanami clan like creates this large collection of like people and rare magical artifacts. And then once a year they have a big auction. So our good guys have sort of like attacked the auction to try to get back one of the 7, or I guess like 2 or 3 of the 7 legendary swords that the Rokuhira, the main character's dad, made. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the plot here. They're assaulting it along with, assaulting the Sazanami clan. So, yeah, this is the flashback kind of goes really deep into Hakuri's background of like, he's like, I deserve it. I can't do any, so I can't do magic. I can't do anything. I'm nothing special. And, this girl in jail is like very, pities him, I guess you should say. And she's, locked in a cage and she's like, you're the one imprisoned in a cage. Like you're locked here by your family. She says, you don't value yourself. You're losing sight of your true value. And this is where it goes a little different from where you would expect. I guess I'll ask you this. In a normal shonen, how would you expect this flashback to end?
Okay, so quick question. This blonde kid, is he like one of the bad guys currently?
No, he's already sort of defected and has helped out the good guys. So we already know he's a good guy.
How will this flashback end? The girl will break out and save him.
Yeah, that's what you would expect, right? What actually happens is the girl breaks out, she finds a knife, and she slits her own throat. And it's like, okay, that's pretty intense. She goes on these pages, right? She's like, there's no point in living. She's like cursed to have like this icy cold skin. She's like, there's no point in living with skin like this. And he's like, but your skin soothed my injuries. She says, the person I loved the most said things like that at first, but after a while he sold me. The same thing always happens. I already know because of my skin, people always abandon me. My only worth is as a curiosity or tool. He's like, even outside the cage, there's no hope. And he's like, wait, we talked together. It's like,
This guy has a terrible life.
yeah. Well,
so this lady just like, it's like, oh, thank you for telling me about your abuse. Let me kill myself in front of you.
yeah. Well, I mean, she's essentially like, she's given an opportunity. She knows that she kind of goes over it on the page, right? She essentially thinks like, it is an interesting and I think good storytelling mirror to the blonde guy, right? As he thinks he doesn't have any value for his family, and she thinks she doesn't have any value because she's cursed with this like icy cold skin, right? She takes the bad way out. She kills herself. And he's, saying you're valuable merchandise, can't let you die. And he's, here, this is, I think, current day we skipped to here. He's like, I killed her. Everything you said to me, well, then was everything you said to me a bunch of lies? And then, so we don't get a true resolution of this, but my assumption is that this is going to develop in sort of a, like, she was wrong. Like, I told her she was valuable and she tried to tell me the same and I didn't listen to her. She was telling the truth. I am valuable. I can do magic. Fuck you, big bro. And he's going to kill him, right? I just thought that this was a really interesting, like a pretty emotional flashback that ends in kind of a shocking way, to like really inform.
That's a good one.
Yeah, to like really inform a character who has kind of been. He's kind of like a wimp. He can't use magic. He's just kind of like selling out his family because he knows that they're the bad guys and he's a good dude. But this, like, to me, is like really developed a side character, in a flashback. And yeah, again, the sort of like the tools that he was missing. Oh, actually, okay. I just developed a new theory and idea. It mentioned back here with the tools, right? He says like his tools always disappear when his brother's tools, whenever he like tortures him with them or bullies him with them, whatever you want to say. And then here at the end, right, this is him fighting his brother in the current day, and his brother is absolutely whipping his ass. And then you hear like a clunk and the tool appears. Like, I think that whose name I keep forgetting, go over here. Like Hakuri, the blonde kid, his power must have something to do with like teleporting items, or the big plot point is that their dad has the storehouse, right? Which is this like magical storage space that only he can access. I'm going to guess that maybe Hakuri either has his own storehouse, which would be a cool, like, oh yeah, I have the same power as dad does. Or maybe he can also just access the main storehouse, which is like the whole big thing is that they have to like, the good guys have to like attack and get a hold of dad and get access to the storehouse, and they can't just kill him because if they kill him, the storehouse is like deleted and everything in it goes away, and they need all those swords. So yeah, it's interesting. I think Kagurabachi is like better than a lot of people are giving it credit for. Like, I think it's sort of like a step above average. Like, it's pretty decent. So
why is his brother crying?
Because he doesn't.
His brother, his bully brother.
It's one of these things where it's like, oh, little bro, I don't like beating you up, but I don't like that you betrayed us, but I gotta show you your place. I don't, it's that kind of like.
I'm so emotional over this.
That kind of like weird abusive love thing where it's like, I wish I didn't have to do this, but I do.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of that kind of thing. So.
Okay. That makes sense.
So yeah, I mean, I'm really curious. I mean, I'm still like reading this week to week. I think it's interesting. I think it's good. Yeah. I mean, I thought this chapter in particular
like an interesting
was really
manga.
Good. Yeah. This is the year of flashbacks, by the way. I think we've gotten some of the best flashbacks I've ever read all this year.
Yeah, no, we've had a lot of good. I'd say like these last 2 years have been pretty fucking fantastic.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
Sure, Dan to Dan carried a lot of that weight, but
Dan to Dan, One Piece. This one I thought was good. Lots of stuff. So cool. I think that's it for manga. Let's go to news. It's actually a lot of news. We'll try to go through it pretty quickly here. Viz Manga launched a Viz original one-shot program. This is run by a guy named Hisashi Sasaki. He was a production committee dude on a bunch of Bleach and Naruto movies. This is essentially just a Western version of the kind of one-shot competition type thing with voting that they have in Japan. I'll be interested to hopefully see if any. I think we're getting closer and closer to someone in Jump or Jump Plus being a non-Japanese native being published. I think this is another good step towards that. Hopefully we get some good manga out of this. I'm excited. Because I do think there's an untapped pool of talent in the West that grew up and like anime and manga and want to create that sort of art, and there is nowhere really for them to publish their stuff. So I think this is great.
And yeah, I think one-shots are like a perfect medium for this. They're so easy to read.
Absolutely.
And they used to be hugely popular on our manga a while ago. Less so now, but I'm sure we'll see them up there.
Yeah. Green Green Greens is ending tomorrow for us on recording. It will be ended yesterday. Unfortunately, that got axed. I think this is about as good as MMA was. I think it's a really good series. Maybe even a little bit better at times. So this one in MMA, sad to see it. Sports is not hitting right now in Japan, as far as I can see. So who knows?
I think it's because they picked sports that people
Too
don't.
niche, I would argue.
Yeah, too
I think
niche.
MMA.
They went
I
too
mean,
niche with it, maybe.
and it does kind of suck because if you see another baseball manga, it's like, well, again, who knows? But maybe I am still holding out hope that Rugby Rumble can hold on and get popular. I think that is another really good sports series. That's on Jump Plus.
But I think this highlights like kind of an unfortunate reality where if you don't do baseball or tennis or soccer
or soccer, yeah.
or basketball, like then you're doomed to fail. Because MMA was great, Green Green Greens was great, but I guess nobody in Japan does MMA, and or the general reader doesn't want to read about it.
Yeah, I think the we talked about this with the MMA when it ended, but the crossover between your average manga reader and volume buyer and someone who plays golf or does MMA is like incredibly small. And the fact that it's in WSJ where they expect a certain amount of success and sort of appeal and sales from you if you don't hit those. Like for instance, I think MMA, Green Green Greens, I think if those are in Weekly Shonen Magazine even, I think those thrive and, stick around for 2 or 3 years and are really good. But WSJ has different standards, so.
And I think we are looking for a good story.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first and foremost for us. Interesting characters, good story. The subject matter doesn't fully matter as long as the author is able to tell a good story with what they have. And I don't think that is a common opinion because people are inundated with a bunch of good stories surrounding them.
Yeah.
Surely they will gravitate towards things that they already know or have established interest in.
Yeah.
I guess that's what happened here.
I think so, yeah. And it's unfortunate, but it's the truth of the matter. But here's even worse news. We got an announcement of 3 new series in Weekly Shonen Jump. And I say that with a defeated heart because let me read to you. These will essentially be the replacements for Green Green Greens, and they are, I think, setting up replacements for My Hero and Jujutsu Kaisen, which are both ending this year, we would assume. Let me read this and just tell me your emotions at the end of the 3. We are getting a new supernatural exorcist battle manga series titled Exorcist no Kiyoshi-kun. We are getting the Full Drive creator Ono Genki is starting a new manga series titled Himaten. That is, I think, a ping pong thing. And then we are getting, from Protect Me Shugamaro creator Ihara Daiki, we're getting a new Demon Exorcist battle action manga series titled Yokai Buster Murakami. Those are our next 3 manga. So tell me how
Inspiring. You feel. Yeah, I feel inspired. I feel like all of this is something I haven't consumed before. So I'm
wow, yes, a supernatural exorcist battle manga and a Demon Exorcist battle action manga. Wow. Haven't seen that before. Haven't been reading those for the past 30 fucking years.
This sparks no joy.
Has to stop.
The ping pong one sounds cool.
Ping pong one might be interesting. Yeah, I'm a little interested in that one. The other 2 and the feelings on Twitter that I got, I tweeted at a couple people and back to a couple people of like, WJ has to stop fucking doing this. Like they have to stop just fucking publishing Exorcist manga after Exorcist manga. Something again that I like about Kagurabachi is like, it's a guy with a sword versus magic people, but it's like, it's different. It's not Exorcist. It's not fighting demons in Tokyo, right? It's like takes place in a different time period. These series will have to show me the most impressive chapter 1 of all time because I am like already writing them off. We'll talk about them on the show, but yeah.
I feel like they have to do something incredibly unique, right?
Yes, they do.
Maybe like Yokai Buster sounds like it'll like try something unique because of the term Buster. I feel like
maybe.
I don't know. I'm trying to be charitable, but I really can't. It's these sound uninspired. We'll see.
They sound uninspired. They don't sound good. Yeah. Let's move on. Let's see. The first info on Teasing Master Takagi-san creator Yamamoto Soichiro's new slice of life manga series called Mane Mane Nichi Nichi. That's starting soon on July 12th. That's about 3 high school girls who are each a manager of a different school club, which sounds a little
That sounds cute.
Yeah, different from the stuff that Yamamoto has done before, so I'll be paying attention to that.
I think this is like the first one I've seen that's outside of the romance genre.
Yeah, which again, that is kind of curious to me. Is are all three girls going to have romance going on? Is it just slice of life? So we'll see.
Yeah, curious.
When that launches, we'll try to cover it on the podcast. So this is an interesting one. Manga Plus launches I don't know what you would call this, an ad watching service. Essentially, they are saying if you are reading a series, you can choose to watch an ad. It does not force you to watch them. You can click on a little button and you watch an ad. And that directly supports the manga author of the manga you are reading. This seems like a good idea in theory to me, letting people say like, I really like, Kagurabachi, let's say. And so when I read Kagurabachi, I'm going to click on that ad. You can do that, I think, 10 times every 24 hours.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And the author, they say, gets, direct support from that. So I think this seems cool. This seems good. If it works exactly the way they're saying, I don't really see any drawbacks to it. And letting people choose to watch ads to support people is better than saying, if we show you an ad while you're reading Kagurabachi, we'll pay the author for it. It's like, well, but I don't want to see ads. So
I'm assuming this is something that you can't just run in the background though, because that won't make sense for advertisers.
Yeah, I think I'll have to try it out. I'll have to go and click and say, show me an ad and see what it looks like.
Is it already live?
That's a good question. Let's find out. I think it is. Limited time, new feature. Oh, it's only on the app, the mobile app, which I don't have. So.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I actually have. I forgot I grabbed a picture for this. So this says, okay, opportunity to watch the ad will be available maximum 10 times 24 hours. Yeah. So this guy, is doing a disservice to this whole thing because he's reading One Piece and he's like, oh, support the most popular manga of all time by, support the creator. Video ad plays. It says thank you.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that idea.
Yeah. I mean, I think as long as it works the way they says it works, should be good.
Yeah.
So, hope to see more of that type of stuff. Let's see.
That's a great idea. I'm into that.
Let's see. We got an announcement. So, Japan Society and Anime NYC, which I believe is a convention or a gathering type thing, launched something called the American Manga Awards. So we have competition now for manga stuff. But they
oh man.
Yeah, darn. But they announced sort of the awards they were giving out and a lot of the judges and stuff. And I saw a lot of the translator and localizers and letterers and stuff were really positive on this. So I think I'm pretty positive on this too. They are going to announce, I think it's just 8 awards, Mangaka Hall of Fame, Manga Publishing Hall of Fame, Best New Manga, Best Continuing Manga Series, Best New Edition of Classic Manga, Best Translation, Best Lettering, Best Publication Design. Those last 3, I think, are the big one because generally comic and manga awards don't get to honor translations. They especially don't honor stuff like lettering and design. So I'm excited to see that. Basically, these are awards for any manga published in English in print or ebooks between August 1st, 2023 and July 30th, 2024. So you'll be hearing about that in a couple months.
I don't understand what best lettering means. Is it like best editing?
No, so lettering, a letterer specifically is in charge of sort of like placement. They are usually the person in charge of like placement of letters and words, which inside
that's the hardest job.
Well,
I get it.
Inside a speech bubble is not hard, but if you think about like deleting kanji and katakana and redrawing, automatopoeias and stuff in the background, they usually, I think the letterers in charge of those redraws also.
Hardest part. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
Not just I'm putting the letters in the bubbles, right? Like much more than that.
Yeah.
So, what else we got? Renai Daiko by Aka Akasaka and Nishizawa 5mm got axed. I believe that ended last week. The series is over. Disappointing, but that never really caught me. And
did we talk about that on the pod, or
we talked about
it with each other?
We talked about it on the pod. I think the first chapter of it would have been early last year at some point.
So we didn't talk about it ending. Yeah, I guess. It didn't capture me either. But I only read like the first 3 chapters, so
I read maybe 7 or 8, and then was sort of like I never really felt compelled to go back. And from what I've seen in the discussions, nobody else really was super compelled about it. I heard that it sort of like it got good the last 10 chapters, but you can't spend 50 chapters getting good, unfortunately. So yeah.
And I don't doubt that it got good. I think Aka has talent, but maybe stretched too thin. Who knows?
Well, and I think a lot of the complaints I saw from people who had read more of it said that like it seemed like he just kind of wanted to to do more Kaguya, but the more serious parts of Kaguya without the humor. And so it was just kind of like romance drama, which is not really where Akka shines, I don't think. So yeah, I don't know.
It's a little bizarre because the concept of the manga is
Super interesting.
more it's more weird than Kaguya. It's more like it lends itself to comedy more than I'd say Kaguya's.
Yeah, and I did think the chapters I read
setting
were funny, but I don't know, maybe it just moved too slow, didn't hit.
Yeah,
I'm not
maybe.
sure.
Yeah.
Other endings happening. Nagatoro is ending, I believe, in 3. I think we have 3 more chapters, maybe just 2 more now. That's kind of disappointing. Although Nagatoro, I think, has still been really, really good. I do appreciate that they let them date for 2 or 3 volumes, so I think that's good. Spoilers, by the way, but
Yeah, well, they've been dating for like the whole manga.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, for
yeah.
a large portion of it. So that's good. Sad to see it end, but I'm curious to see what that author does next. If they do another rom-com, I think they would be good to try to do like an action thing. I think the wrestling action in Nagatoro is generally pretty good. So, let's see.
I like that.
Yeah, we've got this is a weird one. The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald is getting a manga adaptation in March 2025. It will be part of Kadokawa Masterpiece Comics, which is an initiative Kadokawa has to make manga adaptations of classic literature. This is a weird one to choose. This is like a classic Americana novel that they're going to publish in Japanese. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one.
I have no thoughts on this. It's like, I guess it could be cool.
I mean, it's a good book. It's just one of those things that's like, it's very
unnecessary, feels.
I guess there's like a little bit of that. I think the thing that weirds me out the most is like, I guess there's an idea to like take classic literature, adapt it as a manga and release it. I think that's cool. I think it's weird that one of the first things they chose was like one of, if not the most American things you could like. It's like that book is all about like developing capitalism in the Roaring '20s and like feeling like you don't fit in a world where people have to like show off money and stuff like that. Like there's a bunch going on in it, but it's like very American, like coded. Like it is very much Americana. It is an Americana novel.
I guess like I say unnecessary in that this is like making it's like if To Kill a Mockingbird got a manga, it's like why?
Yeah, which again, To Kill a Mockingbird, very Americana. Yeah, weird, but I'm interested. I'll check it out if it comes.
Yeah, I guess I will too.
Let's see.
It's more confusing than anything.
Confusing, I think. Yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah. I think that's a good word to use. The last thing, Gachi the garbage action, getting a TV anime confirmed by Studio Bones. This,
I feel like I called this at some point because, this is a match made in heaven. This is a match made in heaven. I'd have to say, I think Bones is maybe, in my opinion, the most consistent studio at the moment in terms of putting out just bangers. Like Mob Psycho season 2 and 3 proved that in my eyes.
Yeah,
and it looked so good.
It's also cool because the Gachi author worked as an assistant to Okubo. Bones did the adaptation of Soul Eater. I think it is really cool to see someone have their protege, or you would assume. I mean, if you've read or seen Gachi the style of it is like very Okubo inspired. It's like the closest thing to Okubo you can get without being Okubo. It was very cool to see like Bones did Soul Eater. Now, almost 20 years later, Soul Eater is like 2007, maybe 2006.
You know what? I haven't read as much as you, but Gachi has the weirdness that Soul Eater does, and I feel
it really does. Yeah,
nothing else has that weirdness.
We should maybe we'll talk about, maybe we'll catch up on it because it's a pretty good series. Maybe we spend some time catching up on it and talk about it because I did like what I read. I read maybe 70 chapters of it, where he's up to like it's been almost 4 years now. It was a good little series when I read it, and weird, interesting, strange, very, very Soul Eater Fire Force like. So excited for that. I think that's gonna be like Kaiju number 8's not really hitting. That's not the next big thing. I think this is the next big anime thing. I think this is it.
Yeah, you think Gachi? I
think it is. I think
it'll be as popular as Soul Eater.
I think it'll be as popular as Mob Psycho, would be my guess. I think this is a Mob Psycho level event. It's weird. It's different. It has Studio Bones on it. Like, I think the popularity of Mob Psycho, which is like not everyone watched Mob Psycho, right? Not Jujutsu Kaisen levels, but I think that it'll be the sort of like, all the anime people are watching this and it's good. So
I don't think it gets JJK levels. I think you're right. Mob Psycho. It's like a weird niche, and that's not for everyone.
Yeah.
I think it's like, I don't think it has insanely wide appeal, but I think it has wide enough appeal to do well.
It has the appeal to people who are already into anime or manga. It does not necessarily stretch outside that. But I do think that like everyone who's into anime or manga should watch it and like it. So
it's a really cool setting. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And honestly, the first chapter of it, I think is like super exceptionally good.
That's very good.
Is like super. And like, especially the visuals when he's falling down, like that stuff is sick. So
yeah.
Looking forward to that. All right. Let's cap it off. One more thing. I watched Godzilla -1 on Netflix. That is a very good movie.
I hear it's great.
I think it's by far the best Godzilla movie I've ever seen. None of them are like
really
hot take. All those Godzilla movies kind of suck, right? Like they all kind of suck.
Not Shin Godzilla. Shin Godzilla is good.
Shin Godzilla is good. Shin Godzilla also. Could you name me a character or tell me any character arc that happens in Shin Godzilla?
I don't think that was the point of it, though.
Exactly. And I think the reason I like Godzilla -1 is that I could tell you exactly the character arc that 2 or 3 characters had in it. It is very character focused. You could take Godzilla out of the movie and it would still be a pretty compelling movie. Like it wouldn't, not every moment works obviously, but like that's how good this movie is. Is it like it works without Godzilla? Yeah. I think it's really good. I mean, it's just on Netflix. I think you should watch it. It's I think it's a really, really good movie and impressive. The most impressive thing is that they made this movie for $15 million and the effects in it are not always perfect, but they're like really good at times. And they won the special effect Oscar for this.
Crazy low. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. They won the Oscar for best special effects, I believe, for this. And they like deserve it because they like worked on pennies.
That's a shoestring. Yeah, dude. Holy shit.
It's crazy. I think at the end of the movie, you get a little thing that says like written, directed, and special effects by Takashi Yamazaki. It says right here, you can kind of see it. It says like director, screenplay /VFX. Like one guy did this whole movie. It's excellent. To me, this is easily the best Godzilla movie ever made. I do like Shin Godzilla. Shin Godzilla maybe has a more interesting arc around who and what Godzilla is. That's kind of the interesting part of that. But I really like this one.
I think it had an interesting reason as to why humans struggled to like shut down Godzilla like as soon as he was a baby, right?
Yeah.
Because they couldn't just gun down civilians along with it.
And it is very much a critique of Japanese leadership around the Fukushima disaster. That's like strictly the point of Shin Godzilla is like,
right.
If they just made a decision to do something and, help people and take Godzilla, if they just took action, it would have been fine. And they didn't, and it got worse. And they didn't, and it got worse. And they didn't, and it got worse. And they finally did, and it didn't fully fix the problem. And that's the big critique of Shin Godzilla, which is the interesting part, I think, the political commentary.
That's a good point. I think it's like because Godzilla is a representation of the bomb. And it has always been a story about nuclear energy.
Nuclear power, whether bombs or otherwise, yeah.
And this is just and Shin Godzilla is a different iteration on a nuclear disaster.
Exactly, yeah. A different nuclear disaster, a different commentary on it, yeah.
That's cool.
This one is equally as good. This one is more about the First World War, I would say, but that, again, makes it good. So, yeah, definitely check that out. Tell me what you've been doing. Playing Elden Ring, I think?
Mine's short. I've just been casually playing Elden Ring in preparation for the DLC. It has been really fun. It's just a banger game.
It's a great game. Yep, I've been back to it too.
Yeah, I don't think I've played many games 3 times. Especially in a short time period like this?
Yeah, I mean it's only been 2 years. So
yeah,
is it the best FromSoft game? Is it your favorite FromSoft game?
I'd say it's the best FromSoft game. It's not my favorite FromSoft game.
Yeah, I think we have the same opinion. I think a lot of people have the same opinion on this. I think Elden Ring is the best FromSoft game. I think Bloodborne is my favorite FromSoft game.
Bloodborne is my favorite as well.
Yeah.
I just love the aesthetic. Can't be helped.
The aesthetic of Bloodborne and the rally system alone make that game so good and so interesting.
I think the story is like...
And the twists and the reveals.
It hits right. Yeah. But Elden Ring, I'd say, is the better game. And if someone says it's their favorite FromSoft game, I'd say, hey, that's a good opinion.
I think you could list any game except for Dark Souls 2, and no one will give you shit about it. If you're like, Dark Souls 1 is my favorite, be like, yeah, Dark Souls 3,
you'd get shit if you say Dark Souls 3, I think.
2 and 3, I think you'd get the most shit, but if you said, like, Sekiro's your favorite, it'd be like, hell yeah, like, Sekiro's a great game.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
If you're like actions-focused stuff, absolutely great.
They've just gotten better with time. I love it.
I think so, too. Cool. All right. That is it. Thank you again, everyone, for listening or watching. Don't forget to leave us feedback, comments, upvote, ring the bell, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Check out Twitter and Patreon, linked in the description. And thank you again for being with us this week. Don't forget to say goodbye.
Yeah, Mike, you. See you guys.
And don't forget to read more manga.